Let me ask you something. When was the last time you really worked on your pricing? Not thinking about it in the shower, not talking about it in your board meeting. When was the last time you actually sat down and worked on your pricing? If you're like most founders that I talk to, the answer is launch week. You update your product every sprint and you update your marketing every week. But your price, you set it once, you cross the fingers, and then you move on. And that one decision that you've made out of your gut feeling is now quietly shaping every euro your company earns. After 300 plus client studies, I can confidently say that the founders who get their pricing right are not the ones who are smarter. They just think in systems and actually work on a rational basis. Hi, my name is Lukas. I'm the founder of PricingOS.ai, the first AI-powered pricing system for startup founders. And in this video, I'm going to show you what are the 9 exact steps that you should take in order to get your pricing right. Before I walk you through all of them, let me explain what most founders that I see are actually doing in their day-to-day business. And maybe you find yourself in the same situation. As the developer of your product, you are obsessed with every detail. You build the complete system for over 6 months. You rewrite the onboarding 3 times. And then 1 week before the launch, someone asked you, so what are we charging? And the founder does one of 3 things. Number 1, they just open the competitor websites, they look at what they are charging and they copy and paste it to their own system. Research actually shows that in some cases, competitor-based pricing is negatively associated with company profitability. And the worst part about it is that you are copying people who guessed the pricing themselves. Number 2, cost plus pricing. Founders who are not just software based, but with a hardware component fall into this trap. It feels like real math. But the problem is that your customers don't care how much your infrastructure or your product pieces cost. They care about what the product is worth to them. And that's why cost plus pricing systematically underprices high value products. And your product is high value, right? And number 3 is fear pricing. This one is the most expensive of them all. In this specific case, the founder knows that he's probably underpriced, but they are so afraid to lose the potential first customers that they are willing to go that way. So they keep the low price and hope that volume will solve all their problems. Here's what prospect theory tells us. The pain of losing a customer feels roughly twice as hard as the gain from new revenue. So founders overweight the risk of losing a customer and thereby ignore the certainty of leaving money on the table with every single transaction. And the worst part about that is that the math doesn't even add up. If you raise your prices, for example, 20% and you lose 10% of your customers, then you are still ahead on revenue. And you serve fewer clients, which means lower support costs and more focus. I have seen this same patterns over all the client studies that I did in the last years. I am doing my PhD in pricing for innovative startups, and I have spent the last years building a system that helps you to do not fall into these traps. So when I say that most founders get their pricing wrong, this is not guessing. And here's one thing which nobody tells you about your pricing. You would never build a product and then never update it. You ship features every sprint. You fix bugs weekly. And you listen to customer feedback constantly. But with pricing, most founders do the exact opposite. They ship it once and then they never touch it again. Pricing is not a one-time decision that you make out of your gut feeling. It's a system. So now let me walk you through all the 9 steps. Every step builds up on the one previous. Skip a step and the whole thing cracks. Think of it like building a house. Foundation first and roof last. Start by writing down what your product actually does in one sentence. Not a feature list, not your mission statement. An analytics startup that I've worked with described their product as an AI-powered business intelligence platform. This is meaningless. After this exercise, we refined it to: we show e-commerce brands what marketing channels actually drive profit, not just revenue. This clarity unlocked a completely new pricing discussion. Because you cannot price something that you cannot describe. This is where most founders make their first mistake. They say SMEs or large corps, but that's not specific enough for pricing. Different customers have wildly different willingness to pay. An enterprise customer might pay 10 times the amount of what a startup customer would pay for the exact same problem solution. That's why it's so important that you in step 2 define your ideal client profile, your ICP. Because your ICP does not only tell you to whom you're selling, but also what you can charge for it. And after you've understood who your ideal customer is, you can go in step 3, way more focused into your competitive landscape. You can now understand what solutions your ICP is looking at when it's comparing your product to your competitors. Professionals now compare their solution to the ones of the competitors, but from the view of the ideal client profile. They don't just say from their gut feeling that their solution is better because of X, Y, and Z. They say that the ideal customer thinks that this feature is advanced because it solves a specific problem. Once you've done an extensive competitor analysis, you for sure also look on the pricing of your competitors. But not just the price itself. You've tried to understand the strategy behind it, the model that they are using, and what segments they are focusing on. Because their price is signaling their position. Unfortunately, with every product, it doesn't matter how innovative it is, you are never pricing in a vacuum. But you also do not copy your competitors. The goal is to position yourself in the complete landscape you're operating in. And with defining what your product actually is, knowing who your ICP is, and understanding the competitive landscape, you are now in a situation where you can intelligently position yourself by defining the value of your delivery. We now try to quantify your delivery in actual numbers, not just we save you time. We have to calculate from the ICP perspective on how much time and how much this is worth. Or in a revenue increase case, how much revenue increase an ICP could expect. The comparison between the value and the competitor pricing sets your price ceiling. In this case, the sharper limit counts if you can't differentiate your product well enough. But if you have a very differentiated product, you can always look into the value it delivers. If you sell a commodity, you are highly dependent on what the competitors charge. But with the framework, you now have all the information at one hand. After setting the ceiling, you now have to set the floor through your financial planning. This is step 5. We want to understand what is the long-term and what is the short-term price floor. What does it cost to acquire a customer? What does it cost to deliver the product? And what is your overhead? I have seen great startups with prices that were so low that they actually lost money on every new customer. Their CAC, customer acquisition costs, was higher than their LTV, the lifetime value of the customer. So the affordable price that they were charging was actually bankrupting them. So you really have to get this straight. You have to understand the floor before you announce your price. So with combining all the 5 steps, you generated the complete landscape and you know your price boundaries. And in the price scope between the ceiling and the floor, you can now optimize your price. So if we now go back to the real examples that I described in the beginning of the video, the first one who was just looking at the competitors was just looking at the ceiling. The one who did cost plus pricing just looked at the floor. And the one with fear pricing maybe undervalued even the floor. Nobody of the ones that I described looked at the value the product actually delivers or at the complete setting of the price boundary system. So your price is not just a single number, it's a position in the scope of the price boundaries. And many founders that I see are staying at the bottom, just right on top of the floor, without actually knowing it. Are you going for penetration strategy? If yes, you are in the right spot. But if no, or if you don't know, then you are in the wrong spot. So what we are now doing, after understanding how the price boundaries work, we go to step 7, which is price strategy. And there's only 3 strategies. It's cost plus, competitor based, or value based pricing. And within these strategies, you can now also define a go-to-market strategy, which is penetration strategy or skimming strategy. Everything else that you might have heard of is either a price model or a psychological trick. There are also some very specific strategies that are for very special purposes, but for 99% of the cases of startup founders that I see, the 5 strategies I just mentioned are the ones you should look at. The important question that you have to ask to yourself is, does the strategy that you want to go after match your market, your position, your state, and your goals? And after you've defined this, you go into step 8. And in step 8, you go from strategy view to a model view. This is still not how much you charge. It is how you charge. With the first 5 steps, we laid the foundation. With step 6, we understood the landscape. With step 7, we positioned ourselves strategically into the landscape. And in step 8, we now define how to best charge in this landscape. Is it flat rate, per seat, usage based, tiered? Or are you even willing to go a freemium way? There are over 60 models you could potentially look at. But obviously it's not needed to know all of them. But you should consider a main model and a secondary model. So for example, a main model which is tiered pricing. So you have basic, pro and enterprise, for example, as 3 tiers. And then a secondary option is potentially also very welcome, which could be then per seat or per user. The pricing model is often more important than the actual number. Research from Profitwell shows that the how of pricing has a way bigger impact on growth than the how much. And the important part here is that the model has to fit how the customers get the value. If the model is misaligned, no price point will feel right. Synthesize now everything from the steps 1 to 8 into your complete pricing playbook. And then you can make a concrete decision. So step 9 is the final selection and the actual number. And this is actually the most critical part. Now that you set a number on it, you have to set an optimization flow. Schedule a review, quarterly at least, non-negotiable. The 9 steps are important to create the structure, but just with constant learning and optimizing through actual getting feedback from your clients, seeing what the competitors are doing and adapting to it, and seeing also how environments change. You have to collect all this data and then constantly come back to the 9 steps, see what has changed, and try to understand if this changes how you price your product and what the actual number is. Now I'm going to be completely honest with you. Of course, going through all the 9 steps is hard work, and founders typically do that with price consultants in a 3-day workshop where they outsource most of the energy that they have to come up with for the market research and stuff like that to their price consultants. Walking through all the 9 steps is a lot of work. And that is kind of the point of the video. Pricing is not an afternoon project, but founders who understand this come up with a price that is so good that they actually feel certain and can enforce it into the market. So what I did to make this way more easy for you is I created an AI pricing architect. All the 9 steps we just described are put into ChatGPT prompts in an Excel-based system that you can use for free. You can just download it and go into your own ChatGPT, tell them what you're up, answer the questions after putting in the prompts, and then getting a recommended price strategy, a recommended price model, and an actual price. This solution is perfect for everybody who's pre-revenue and wants to get an initial and great pricing. But if you are already in a seed stage, or if you are even further, and you should now invest more time and more energy into your pricing, but especially also in your price optimization, then PricingOS.ai is the right choice for you. With PricingOS.ai, we created the first AI-powered pricing system for startup founders, which puts all the 9 steps that we just discussed and the logic of the AI pricing architect into a complete software that you can use as your operating system. It gives you not only the 9 steps, it gives you the structure, it generates weekly tasks for you to improve, and it gives you personalized improvement to-dos on top of that in order to make your pricing perfect. And other than that, you have your AI brain. Think of it like your co-founder in your pocket that you always thinks about pricing and that you can ask anything. Link to both of these offers are in the description, but you can also go just use the 9 steps and create your pricing. I hope the video helped you. I hope you use the 9 steps, and if you know somebody who could benefit from using this framework, then please send them the video. They will thank you.